Say hello to the brand new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold7. This is Samsung's thinnest, most powerful foldable yet. It is sleek, it's powerful and premium, and it's also packing a 200 megapixel camera, which I'm pretty excited about. I have been folding and unfolding this thing for the past month, and now I am ready to tell you all about it, so let's get into the review. First, a big thank you to Samsung for flying me out to their event in Brooklyn in early July and loaning these devices to me for these reviews. As usual, brands have no editorial control over the content of my videos. What's up, s'mores? I'm Shannon Morse. Welcome to my YouTube channel where we dive into tech that is smart, stylish, as well as secure. And this is the Fold7, which starts at about $2,000 for the 256 gig model. But if you're a data hoarder like I am, you can go all the way up to 1 terabyte for a few $100 more. There are a few different colorways you can choose from. There's a jet black, silver shadow, blue shadow, and my personal favorite, which is mint. That mint color is really beautiful in person. It looks very matte, although the blue shadow, which is the one I have in hand here, is growing on me, especially in the sunlight where it has this really cool subtle shift in color. It goes from this like super dark blue color to this pretty sky blue color. It's very beautiful. Now in the box, you get the phone, of course, you get a USB-C cable, a SIM tool, and the paperwork. As expected, there is no charger. Now, if you are finding this video helpful, a subscribe would mean so much to me. Subscribing is a very simple way of showing me which videos you find helpful, which ones you find valuable, and it also tells me which direction I should be taking my channel in. Samsung made a big improvement here that also came with a major drawback for power users, meaning this phone is ridiculously thin, but we also lost the S Pen capabilities. We are talking about 4.2 millimeters from front to back when it's unfolded. When you fold it up, that is just 8.9 millimeters, and it weighs only 215 grams or 7.5 ounces. So if you hold this up right next to an S25 Ultra, it's definitely comparable in the thinness, and it's just slightly skinnier from side to side. Like, it is almost exactly as thin as the S25 Ultra when it's folded up, and that's pretty crazy to me. Now, in fact, I have handed this phone to real-life friends who have looked at the closed phone, and they did not realize that it's actually a folding phone because it's so thin. It's not until I tell my friends, open it, and their reactions are so hilarious. They end up opening it and they're just like, oh my gosh, this thing is so thin. Everyone is super gentle with it, very careful whenever they're holding it, like it's going to break if they touch it too much, but it's actually okay. This phone will take some bumps and dings. I'm also still being very careful with it too, but I have already dropped it. As you can see, it still works, and I have ordered some cases for it too, just to test those out as well. So if you want to see some accessories, I'll post some of those ones that I found over on my TikTok and my Instagram pages. Now I want to talk about this Flex Hinge. Now this hinge is newly redesigned. It's really lovely. It's called the Flex Hinge. It's very nice. The hinge does have a lot of tension, and I did find that it is a little bit harder to open than on the Fold 6, and I generally have to use a fingernail to get a grip on the edge in order to pull it open, because that magnet is very, very strong. It's a strong closure, and the fold feels smoother and sturdier than ever thanks to that nice new design. Now this phone is built with this Armor aluminum frame with Gorilla Glass Victus Ceramic 2 on the front for added durability, and the inside display has a titanium plate layer to support it. Now one thing that kind of bothers me is that it does not sit flat on a surface without wobble due to the camera lens casing on the back right here. Like, I could sit here and just start doing some Morse code on this phone because of that wobble. Oh my god, there's so much wobble. Luckily, this phone is also IP48 dust and water resistant, so it does have some water immersion protection, and you are protected from splashes, also 1 millimeter or larger materials. As an example, I was using this at the beach and we got a quick rain shower as well, and it was totally fine. It did get some sand on it. The sand mostly was definitely smaller than 1 millimeter in size, but I was able to brush off anything that got in the crevices. Just take care of your foldies though. These these phones are not going to be as durable as a traditional one, so before you close it, wipe off that screen. Whenever you're opening the hinge, make sure there's nothing in the hinge before you open it, or just put a case on it. Now, this main display is gorgeous. It's an 8-inch dynamic AMOLED 2X with a crispy 2184 by 1968 resolution, so it's almost a perfect square. It's really close, and 120 Hz refresh rate. It is foldable, it's HDR10 Plus certified, and it peaks at 2600 nits. Now that actually matches perfectly with the S25 Ultra. It is tough to see in direct sunlight on camera, but in person, totally fine. I mentioned that it is a foldy, and where is that crease? Seriously, where is it? You can't see it head on. It's really lovely. It's still there, it's just very hard to see. You can run your finger across it, and of course you're going to feel that slight indentation where it exists, but the screen is pretty much flat and smooth. You really can't see the crease while the screen is on directly in front of you. The cover display is also no slouch. It looks beautiful as well. It's crispy, it's super beautiful. It's a 6.5 inch. That's a 1080 by 2520 display. It's also a dynamic AMOLED 2X display, and it's also 120 Hz. And I am totally thrilled to share that it is now wide enough at 72.8 millimeters to be used as a normal phone for everything from typing to browsing to productivity. I did notice that the bezel around the edges is slightly thicker than on the Flip 7 cover screen, the Flex window, and the edges are very squared off, especially on the left side where the front and the back open to meet covering the hinge. The size is 6.5 inches diagonally, and the aspect ratio is 21:9, which makes it much more comfortable as an experience to type on or just to watch videos. Now, this video is sponsored by Delete Me, and I gotta say, everything is rising in cost this year, including smartphones. And to be honest, all of these increased expenses make me realize I do not have space in my budget for one of the most costly problems that you can experience, which is identity theft. Did you know that identity theft actually affects millions every year? One major avenue for identity thieves is the vast amount of personal information available online, which is often compiled by data brokers without your knowledge or consent. That is why I trust Delete Me to keep my information secure and to remove it from data broker sites. Delete Me removes your personal information and data from numerous data broker sites, significantly reducing the chances of your information being exploited by identity thieves. Their monitoring ensures that even the most minute detail can trigger a match, allowing them to find listings with your information and send opt-out requests to data brokers, so you don't have to lift a finger. And since data brokers often resurface listings after a few months, Delete Me keeps tabs on them, routinely sending out opt-outs anytime they spot a new listing. And since you're trusting Delete Me to take care of this for you, they also employ advanced threat detection tools. They maintain a dedicated security operations center to monitor and respond to potential security incidents 24/7. Their commitment to data protection practices ensures your personal information is handled securely, and you can contact them directly with questions via their security page, which is at joindeleteme.com/security. Trust me, I am paranoid too. I always gotta ask the security questions. So take control of your identity today. Visit joindeleteme.com/Morse code and use the promo code SNUBS, which is SNUBS, for 20% off. That's joindeleteme.com/Morse code and use the coupon code SNUBS, SNUBS, for 20% off. And thank you so much to Delete Me for sponsoring this video and for being a company that I have trusted to get my own personal data off the internet for years, even longer than I've had this YouTube channel. Now, I want to talk about the S Pen, or lack of S Pen. While I have seen cases like on Amazon available for the Fold 7 from third parties that have like S Pens built in, Samsung actually removed the digitizer layer from that inner display to make it even thinner, which means the S Pen is not going to work. That's a huge drawback for me and one of the main reasons that's holding me back from purchasing one and why I'm still using my S25 Ultra. I use the S Pen at least once a day for everything from precise video and photo editing, circle to search, highlighting, all sorts of use cases that require precision. So I was pretty disappointed to find out that the S Pen functionality was removed entirely in order to provide us with a thinner phone. Most people probably won't care about that, but for the small market of users who do. That's a big con. Now let's chat about the cameras. There are 3 on the back. The rear lenses include a 200 megapixel f1.7 aperture, that's the wide angle. There's a 10 megapixel f2.4 aperture telephoto with 3x optical zoom. There's also a 12 megapixel f2.2 120 degrees ultra wide, and video can be recorded up to 8K 30. When opening it, the folding display also has a little punch out camera here instead of the under display camera, which thank God, I am so glad they went to a punch out camera because the old inner display cameras on the previous folds were not good at all. This is a 10 megapixel f2.2 and it's also in ultra wide. Then we have the cover display, which also has a punch out camera. This is the cover camera. That's your 10 megapixel f2.2, which is a wide angle. Now the folding display lens does have a little bit wider of a lens than the cover display camera does. And both of those selfie lenses can do 4K at 30 or 60 FPS. Now starting with the main 200 megapixel lens, this one did a great job of capturing some awesome photos both in daylight as well as nighttime. Photos from the Incubus concert at the Red Rocks Amphitheater here in Colorado, which was an incredible performance. I loved it. Those pictures did have some noise, but they kept a lot of the details from the stage and the atmosphere. I didn't have any glare from the lights. Any of the glare that you do see in those pictures is from fog machines, or, you know, it's Colorado, so there's devil's lettuce, especially at Red Rocks Amphitheater. It happens every single time I go to a concert there. I do not partake, but there was some in the air. So there wasn't any actual glare from the lights presented in the lens. Lots of details are still present in the photos. Even for selfies, it was really clear at night, and in daylight settings, it was excellent to work with. I felt like the skin tones look really accurate, that natural bokeh is very nice and smooth, and the details are really crisp. The telephoto lens could be a little bit better in my opinion, but a thin phone also means thin lenses too. At 3 times optical zoom, it still looks pretty clear and crisp, but zooming in any further introduces quite a bit of noise and graininess. For example, these zooms from the concert are definitely potato quality, but lower zooms of the flowers and the turtles on different days, those look great. Moving subjects are also harder to capture at those higher zooms, and they do get blurry pretty quickly. The ultra wide is pretty impressive, especially since it's a 12 megapixel lens. Selfies look beautifully crisp. My sunset photos came out looking gorgeous. The colors in the sky are so rich and detailed and vibrant. There's just really beautiful hues. And the selfies with my friends and family look great. The ultra wide field of view also leaves plenty of room for bigger groups or to capture landscapes behind you if you are traveling by yourself. So Samsung is definitely pushing 8K at 30 FPS, slow-mo up to 960 FPS, that's pretty cool too. There's even 10-bit HDR and HDR10 Plus baked in. My videos came out pretty great, but there is a very noticeable quality upgrade when you choose the rear lenses over either front-facing ones. Now here's some video tests with some audio so you can make a comparison yourself. I'm using the outer display camera to see if the everything looks good on here. How does this look? Here's the inner display camera. Luckily it's a punch-out camera instead of a under display lens. Oh, that's way better. Look at that camera. Dang, these things are good. Now the hard part about this is making sure that you're looking at the lens and not the display. That's always fun. Okay, we're still on the hunt for shark's teeth. So I'm looking around here, right? And if you, let me zoom in on that. Nope, don't take my shark's tooth. Jeez, oh my God. Okay, there we go. So it reflects a lot in the sunlight when it was sitting down here. On that main display and on the cover screen, again, you're getting those 10 megapixel sensors. Neither of those has autofocus or OIS, so they are not flagship level for selfies, but they do get the job done for video calls or for quick snaps. In my case, I felt like the selfies were clear, but definitely not as good as the rear lenses or on the S25 Ultra. I feel like the pictures I get out of there for selfies are better, and there was some loss of clarity and detail. Of course, my S25 Z5 Ultra does have the autofocus on that front-facing selfie lens. Now, running the new Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset, it is absolutely flying. Backed by up to 16 gigs of RAM, which is on the 1 terabyte model. You also get 12 gigs of RAM if you go with one of the lower storage options. It also has UFS 4.0 storage. Everything feels really snappy. My 3D Mark scores were through the roof too. Like, check out my scores in these screenshots. And in both cases, running benchmarks folded and unfolded, the Fold7 did a stellar job. Gaming on the main display in Genshin Impact was incredibly beautiful on that really big display. I had no noticeable frame drops whenever I was playing through the game, and I was also playing on the highest refresh rate that I could get out of the game, so highest graphics in the settings. Video editing is super smooth. In fact, having that bigger display does make video editing a little bit easier. And heat? Well, yeah, it gets a little bit warm on the back, but it does feel like it's dissipated very equally from one side to the other. It's also not unbearable at all. It gets a little bit warm, but that's about it. Now, we are running Android 16 with One UI 8, and Samsung is promising 7 years of major upgrades, plus security patches. That is a huge positive at the end of the day, assuming you keep the phone for that long and it's durable enough to last. I don't think anybody has had one of these in hand for long enough as a consumer to tell whether or not it's gonna last that long. Of course we haven't, it just came out a month ago. One UI is foldable optimized. There's a taskbar, there's floating windows and multitasking features. I was editing a script, I was watching YouTube and reading some Sailor Moon news all at the same time, like a true multitasker on this big screen. Now, similar to the Flip 7, we do have that side-mounted fingerprint sensor, which is in the power button over on the edge right here. And you do have to kind of caress it back and forth whenever you set it up for the first time, which is extremely awkward. It works fine, but I do prefer ultrasonic sensors myself in the actual display, though that would be a big change should it ever come to a foldable. There's also a pretty reliable facial recognition and Knox security features. UWB or ultra wideband is included. There's also NFC, Bluetooth 5.4, and Wi-Fi 7. All of those are baked in. My speed tests were very fast. We also have dual SIM support for 5G, excellent DeX support, which really rounds this thing out to not only be a smooth operator for smartphone daily use, but you could also be hooked up to a monitor and use it as a desktop. And then we have that 4,400 milliampere hour battery. Now, on paper, that sounds kind of small for a dual screen beast. And I do question if it was smaller because of the thinner casing. But surprisingly, I got about 9 hours of screen on time, fully open the whole time. I was playing games on here, I was streaming 4K 60p videos on YouTube, all that stuff. You'll get more than that if you don't use it open for 9 hours like I did straight. I was really trying to drain that battery as fast as I could. Fast charging tops you off at 50% in 30 minutes via 25-watt wired or 15-watt wireless. That is still slower than some of the other less expensive phones on the market, both foldies and traditional. And I am kind of spoiled for fast charge, so I would love to see them increase the charging speeds in the future. You also get that 4.5-watt reverse wireless charging too, which is great for topping off your Galaxy Buds. Now, I also noticed, and this is going to be very random, but I noticed when charging this phone that it is so thin that USB-C port is almost the same exact depth as the phone when it's unfolded. There is barely any material on the sides of that USB-C port. So USB-C cables do have some extra material around the housing, and as such, if you are using a case on this phone, you may find yourself having to remove the case in order to fit your cable into the port. That's not going to be a problem if you're just using wireless charging all the time, but it is an annoying drawback of thinner phones that offer less durability that will probably be cased. And one of those things that you really don't realize until you actually use and review one of these in hand. So if you're putting a case on this, just know you may have to modify that case a little bit to make more space for your charging cables, or you use wireless charging all the time, or you just remove the case whenever you have to charge it. Okay, so the Z Fold 7 is thinner, it's lighter, it's more powerful than ever. It is made for people who want a phone that can do all the things: create and consume and game, work, use DeX Flex, literally. So the question I had was, why is everybody so obsessed with this phone? Like, I'm actually seeing people, and not just for reviews, I'm seeing people move from iPhones over to a Fold 7. And I think I know why. Because when we first envisioned foldables, we were hoping for this kind of form factor. We hoped this form factor would eventually not be as bulky, and we wanted something that had a front display that was actually wide enough to be useful. Pixel's Fold did have a front display that was wide enough to be useful, but it was still really bulky. Samsung really made a huge improvement to the Fold this year. I think it's gorgeous. I think it's got really good cameras, great displays, and it feels so refined. Yes, it's still very expensive, and it bugs the heck out of me that there's no S Pen support. But if you are somebody who lives in split screen mode, you want a phone tablet hybrid thing that's truly a flagship, I think the Fold 7 is one of the best, if not the best, foldable of 2025 that you can get your hands on. Of course, the year is not over. There could be other foldables on the market that come out this year, and I will try my best to get those on the channel to review. So if you want to see those too, make sure to subscribe again and leave your comments below if there's anything else that I did not cover in this video. If you want to see pro tips from me too, I will have a full video of pro tips on how to use this phone to its best advantage. And thank you so much again for watching till the end. I'll see you next time. Bye y'all.